Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 53 of the KISS Army Nation podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Pasquale Veri.
And I am Claudius Pera. Welcome to the show, everyone.
Today's guest is an engineer, a quality management professional, the author of 2 books of poetry, Son of a Beach and #Tweetstorms, and of course, a Montreal KISS fan. He also has a propensity for recording and collecting KISS shows. Here to talk about his interests and the bootleg releases of Off the Soundboard and Live in Paris, let's welcome Michael Bournazian to the KISS Army Nation podcast. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hello, guys.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of this podcast. I've watched pretty much all of the episodes you've had up till now, and I'm glad to be a part of it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Michael, just to get the episode going, we always we would like to hear about your origin story as a KISS fan. So, how did you get into KISS?
Okay, how did I get into KISS? So my origin story is actually 2 parts. There's the first time I got into KISS, and then there's the time I really got into KISS. Okay. So it was around 1982. So I was about 13 years old at the time. And at the time, I was already into, my own music, which was, rock. I had started listening to Elvis Presley in the late 70s and then got into the Beatles. After that, I started finding an interest in, heavy rock, hard rock. I had albums by AC/DC and Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin as well, David Bowie. So, I was kind of leaning in that direction. Plus, I was hearing a lot of classical music and opera music in, my parents' home, because that was the music they mainly listened to, as well as, Armenian music, because, my background is Armenian. But I have this vivid memory of being home one evening, watching TV with my mom. And it was December of 1982. And back in the day when they used to advertise concerts on TV, there would be a commercial, so-and-so coming to town and get your tickets at this box office, whatever. So this commercial came on for the KISS show at the Montreal Forum in January of 1983 for the Creatures of the Night tour. Now, at that very moment in time, I didn't know who KISS were. I had never heard of them before.
Okay.
So I saw the commercial. And, the commercial included a lot of elements of the I Love It Loud video. And so I sat there watching this, and I'll never forget my mom saying to me, "I hope that's not some of the music you listen to." And and I answered honestly. I said, "I've never heard of this band before, seriously, and that was the honest answer. I hadn't heard of them up until that point. But, that commercial, that advertising left a mark on me. And, around the same time you had, Much Music and MTV starting up. And, at the time, the local rock radio stations would play music of that variety. So I soon learned, okay, this is a band called KISS. They have a video called I Love It Loud. I like the song. And then later on that year came Lick It Up. It seems they took off the makeup. So I heard I Lick It Up. I heard, All Hell's Breaking Loose. Long story short, in terms of the first part of my origin story, for the first 10 years, from like 1983 up until 1993, I knew KISS for their singles and the videos that they put out. I never bought an album. I never went to see a show. I never saw the Creatures show in Montreal. I never saw the Lick It Up show in Montreal. I never saw the Hot and Decide tour or the Revenge tour that came to Montreal. I knew all, the songs that videos got made for. And, so, I knew Unholy. I knew Tears Are Falling, Crazy, Crazy Nights, et cetera, et cetera. And I knew I liked what I heard. I liked it. But at no point did I ever go out and, buy an album or a tape or a CD.
Okay.
So fast forward to 1993. So this is the second part of the origin story. So in 1993, by 1993, I had started collecting bootleg recordings of some artists that I liked. So I kind of knew where to go to get, CDs or, VHS videos and stuff like that. I had a friend at the time. We're not friends anymore, but I'll give credit where credit is due. This friend of mine at the time said, "Hey, Mike, you're collecting, these videos of concerts and stuff by these bands that you like. I've always wanted to see like a classic KISS show, like from the 70s when they wore makeup and stuff. You think you might be able to get one?" And I said, "Okay, well, let me give it a shot." So one day the next time I went to downtown Montreal to the store I would go to get my illegal items.
Your material, right?
My material, let's call it material. So I went up to the guy. I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a good KISS show. What do you have?" And I'll never forget this. He reached under the counter and he pulled out 3 VHS tapes and he put them on the counter and he started explaining each one to me.
Okay.
And he was pointing to each one. So he points to the first one. He goes, "Winterland, 1974." Remember, at the time we thought that show was in 1974. Yeah. So he goes, "Winterland, 1974, professionally filmed, black and white, 1 hour long, with an extra hour of stuff, various stuff." The second tape, Houston, Texas, 1977, second night, professionally filmed, full show, and some extra stuff afterwards. And Largo, 1979, professionally filmed, not as good quality as Houston or Winterland, but still a good show, and some extra stuff. And I said, okay, well, if you were me and you were looking for your first show, which one would you get? And he handed me Houston 77, second night. Mm-hmm. So I paid for it. I took it home. I called my friend. I said, "I got your tape. When can I come over and we watch it?" He goes, "Okay, we'll come over this weekend." I go, "Okay, that's fine." So that was a few days away. But before I went over to his place to watch it, I put it on my own VHS player. I wanted to watch it on my own. And
that was actually the first time that you ever watched footage, a concert like that, with the original lineup, or not?
Yes, absolutely
okay.
True. Absolutely true. I mean, aside from sporadic, videos here and there, Mm-hmm. So I put it on and it started. And by the time the fifth song got going, so we all know the set list of this show, right? "I Stole Your Love," "Take Me," "Ladies' Room," "Firehouse," "Love Gun," etc., etc. By the time it got to "Love Gun" and Paul started levitating, near the end of the song, I was sold. I was like, where have I been the past 10 years? Why have I not gotten into this band more? That was it. From that point onwards, it was like, get all the studio albums, get all the live releases, and eventually, get into collecting their shows. That was basically it.
Okay.
That's how it all started.
Wow. Interesting. The gap, and actually between phase 1 and phase 2, let's say, of your origin story, how deep you went into, phase 2, and, phase 1, that it basically lasted like 10 years. You were just touching the surface there. So you were not going deep as you did right after, right?
Well, I had many other groups that I was listening to.
Okay.
And, the more bands you like, the more artists you like, I find, unfortunately, sometimes the less time you have to dedicate to them.
Sure.
I know people that they only like KISS. As far as I'm concerned, that's an unfortunate waste of time, because there's so much else to listen to, and there's so much that I like to listen to. Yeah. So as much as I'm fanatical about KISS and I love what they do, I cannot dedicate 100% of my time to that,
Of course.
But when I do give my time, I give my time. My time. That's basically it. So, yeah.
Michael, just to follow on just to continue on your story. So, what is your favorite KISS concert that you've been to?
So I've seen KISS live 17 times, which might be a small number to some people, but trust me, I've done my best to make it to all those 17. There's 2 shows that I could put near the top for different reasons. The first one being the Montreal Psycho Circus show. Now, before that, I had seen them 2 times before. So the first time I saw KISS was in '96. Okay, so imagine this. My first, your first time seeing the band is on the reunion tour when they came back. I mean, we just had yesterday was the anniversary of their appearance on the Grammys, right?
Yep.
When they came out with Tupac Shakur and he introduced them. I mean, I remember to this day being in my bedroom seeing that and just flipping out. I was like, "It's happening! I can't believe it! Oh my God, it's happening!" And then literally a few months later, seeing them in Montreal and seeing them in Ottawa. So the third time I saw them was on the Psycho Circus tour, and that was actually the first time that I recorded KISS, audio recorded them. Whether I did that or not aside, that show was just on another level for me. My friend and I, we were very close to the stage on Gene's side. We could feel the flames, like we could really feel them. And I have this theory that a KISS show goes from being good or very good to really good, really great when Paul Stanley is having a good night. When Paul Stanley is having a good night, it goes to another level. And that night, for whatever reason, I can't explain it, but he seemed to be on that night. His singing, his in between song banter. I was like, wow, what happened before the show?
Right, exactly.
It's like, what's going on? And I was listening to the show a number of months ago because I digitized the audio tapes I had for that concert and I put them up on YouTube. So I kind of had the chance to listen to it again after so many years, and I was like, wow, this still sounds amazing. My initial impression is still my impression now.
Was quite right. Okay.
Yeah. So that was one concert. The other one I would kind of put towards the top would be when I saw them in, of all places, St. John's, Newfoundland in 2013. So KISS did 2 shows on the Monster Tour in St. John's. And this kind of goes back to 1996 because I met one of my best friends, someone who's now one of my best friends. Originally, we met, on a KISS message board, and he came to Montreal to see the Montreal show on the reunion tour. And I remember us talking at some point, and him saying, anytime I see KISS, it's probably going to be someplace other than St. John's, Newfoundland, because they're never going to come to St. John's, Newfoundland. And I said to him at the time, perhaps sort of facetiously, I said, well, if they ever come, I'll make it out there and I'll see the show with you. Well, sure enough, 17 years later, and there I am getting on a plane off to St. John's, Newfoundland to see these 2 shows.
Wow.
And that night we had seats very close to the stage, like right off to the side, like stage left. And again, I was able to film the show that night, and the energy in the room was incredible. I mean, just imagine, KISS is, the band is playing, any band, playing to a city that they've never played before, who's had immense popularity for so long. I mean, the energy was through the roof. I mean, the other night, the second night was also good, was also great. But, just that first night, it felt like, it's like, the promise I made like 17 years ago coming to reality, Yeah. So that was a cool night.
Wow. And Michael, have you had a kind of have you participated in any KISS related events such as the cruise or expos or tribute bands? Have you been part of that?
The cruise I've enjoyed from afar. I don't think I would ever do a cruise, to be honest. Cruises are not my thing, to be perfectly honest. I look forward to Pasquale going again this year and seeing his pictures. I've definitely seen my share of tribute bands. I mean, I saw tribute bands before I saw KISS in '96, so that was the way I got my fill. And going to expos, as well, or expositions. I mean, some of the first bootleg videos I ever bought, were at expos. People were there selling, and I was like, oh, well, what's this show? Oh, well, what's that show? Oh, and like that. So it was a good way to see tribute bands, meet other fans, and just get into the experience. So.
Did you attend the '95 the conventions tour when they came here? It was Montreal and Quebec, right, Pasquale?
Montreal for sure.
Montreal,
Montreal only. I mean, like I said, I mean, my first time seeing Kiss was Montreal, 1996. But coincidentally, but coincidentally, my friend who I told you about from St. John's, he was at that 95 convention show. So that was his first time seeing Kiss, was at that convention show. True to his word, he had to leave. He had to leave his home province to see this favorite band of his that he liked. But I've seen many. If I can go to something like that, I will go to something like that. I mean, It's been a while, but I was telling Pasquale before we started that the last time I involved myself in a KISS get together was when he threw he had the fan get together before the March 2019 show, and that was a lot of fun, and the KISS tribute band played, and I got to run into a few people I hadn't seen in a while, and I got to be accosted by a few people because I wasn't wearing a KISS t-shirt.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I was literally the only person there who was wearing a band t-shirt that wasn't KISS. I was wearing a Motorhead t-shirt.
A Motorhead, okay.
Yeah. And that's my personality. It's like, okay, well, I'm already going to see the band. Why do I have to wear a band t-shirt?
Right.
I mean, I'm not even wearing a KISS t-shirt now.
Right.
So, but just a kind of a fun way to mess with people's heads.
It's all good. It's all good. Have you ever met any of the members of the band?
I've only ever met Bruce Kulick very briefly at one of the expos. Actually, twice. Actually, there were 2 expos where he was a guest. And just hi, how you doing?
And that's it. Okay.
Sign the CD, and and thank you for everything you do, and that kind of thing. I'm not the kind of person that necessarily goes out of my way to meet a band. I mean, I'm not saying it's never happened. I mean, I have met artists, in the past, but it's not.
It's not your thing.
It's not an absolute necessity. For me, the main thing is, you give me music, you give me live performances, I enjoy them, and thank you. That's it. That's the cake. Everything else is frosting.
Okay. But if you had to pick one, who would you like to meet? If someone gives you the choice to, I don't know, spend 5 minutes talking to any of the members of the band, who would that be?
I probably want to talk with Paul. He seems like, I think personality-wise, I think him and I would probably get along.
Okay.
The best. I mean, I've read all their books, all their autobiographies. I mean, I think, head and shoulders, his autobiography is the best.
Okay.
I definitely. His autobiography is the only one I still have. Like I bought all the other 3. I read them, and after a certain period of time, it's like, I don't think I'm ever going to read this again. Give it to the library. But
okay.
But Paul's I kept, and I've read it twice, and I'm sure I'll read it again at some point.
You revisit once in a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nice. Good. Thank you.
Michael, KISS fans seem to love the band for many different reasons. Obviously, it's for the music, but some fans enjoy collecting. Others enjoy tribute bands. Some fans get into fan projects such as books and videos, and a few lucky fans get to work directly with the band. What's cool about being a KISS fan is that there's so many aspects of being a KISS fan. So for you, what aspect of KISS fandom do you gravitate towards, and why?
Well, I mean, the simple answer to that, and it'll be a longer answer, I suppose, but the simple answer is the music. I mean, any artist I like, any band that I like, it's really the music. The studio albums, the concerts, the collecting of shows, or recording of shows. That's what gives me joy. I mean, from the first time I saw AC/DC in 1983 up until the last shows that I saw, luckily last year, there's always a sense of fulfillment that I get from seeing someone perform music, especially if it's music that I like. I mean, I can't tell you how many times or how many versions of the song Rock and Roll All Night I have in my collection. Obviously, there's the studio version plus X number of live versions that I have, plus all the times I've seen them perform it live. And, you multiply that by the number of times you've listened to Dress to Kill and listened to a show. And, I mean, God knows how many times I've heard that song, but every time I hear it, I light up. Part of me inside of me lights up. It's like, there's a song I like.
Spark.
Yeah, a spark goes off, and forget about love. And yes, it's a song that's overplayed. Part of me would love to see Kiss leave it out of a set list one day just for fun. But yeah, I have no problem hearing that song, to this day, given even the so many times that I've heard it. I mean, like I said earlier, I've seen Kiss 17 times. Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, Halifax, St. John's, Dayton, Ohio, of all places, Darien Lake near Buffalo, the amphitheater there. All the shows hold memories. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the music, like I said. And, whether it's Kiss makeup, Kiss without makeup, I don't really care, to be perfectly honest.
It is the music.
It is the music. I mean, I remember, I think it was during the Crazy Nights tour. There's an interview. It might be on YouTube, but there's an interview with Gene that he's giving an interview, and someone's asking him, well, is it the same without the makeup? Now that you're doing this, and by that point they'd been doing it for like 5-6 years. But again, you're getting this question, And he brought up this analogy. I used it before actually, about how the music and the performances are like the cake. Like you can have a cake without frosting, and you can still eat the cake. If you put some frosting on it, yeah, it's good. Okay, fine, but you don't need it.
Okay.
So like he was equating like their makeup and the bombs and the big light show to to frosting. I mean, whether he would say that now, who knows? He might have been saying that in 1988 to sell to sell the fact that Kiss is still worthwhile in 1988 even without the makeup. But I thought, oh, okay, that's a nice little analogy there. So yeah, it's like the music and the performances. That's the cake for me. And there's many other artists that I try and see as much as possible. Whether it's Kiss or Iron Maiden, Bruce Springsteen, Fish. There's a band out of New York State, not that well known, but they're a band called Mo. I've seen them 53 times.
Wow.
And only twice in Montreal. So every other time I've seen them, I've traveled to go someplace to see them because I enjoy their music, and they put on great shows. They always play different shows, different set lists, and I
fun.
Enjoy it.
It's
fun. The other thing that attracts me is meeting people, or meeting people, having different experiences. I mean, to this day, people that I met 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I'm still friends with them, even if it's just on Facebook. We check in once in a while. Hey, are you going to see the show? There's a new tour. Hey, are you going to go see the show in wherever, Los Angeles? Yeah, I'm going to go. So that's that's fun as well.
That's the beauty of music, right? And art. Anything related to art. That's exactly. Awesome. So Michael, you mentioned before that you started collecting material, like bootleg recordings and all of that in the early 90s. We want to get a little bit deeper on that. So how many Kiss concerts do you have in your collection? And then what is the most concerts you have in your collection? Maybe not from Kiss, but can you tell us about that?
I'll tell you about that. I'll give you a bit of an origin story though about how I got into that. So around the early 80s, like I said, I was starting to get into these different, rock artists. At the time, my parents and we didn't have like a VCR. But, they would show concerts on TV. I remember seeing Rush Exit Stage Left, the movie, on TV and enjoying it. David Bowie's Serious Moonlight tour from 1983. Same thing. See it on TV, enjoy it. But I wanted it. I wanted to be able to have it.
Not just
watch it on TV and then oh, it's gone. Who knows when they'll show it again? So, I mean, I had a little cassette player, with recording ability, that I used to use for school. And I thought, well, what if I put this up against the speaker of the television and just record the audio? I won't have the video. Okay, fine. But, I'll still have the show, So I remember doing that for like Exit Stage Left, the movie by Rush. I mean, before I owned any Rush albums or tapes, before there were CDs, I had this cassette of this recording of Exit Stage Left
of the audio
that I recorded off the TV, and literally by putting my cassette recorder against the speaker of the television in the house. I did the same thing with that David Bowie concert from 1983 as well. So that's kind of how it all, got started. Later on, in the late 80s, I believe it was, I found a book on Bruce Springsteen that was published by a magazine called Backstreets that had been publishing since 1980 from out of Seattle, Washington. And it was basically like a fan magazine about Bruce Springsteen. And I'd been into him since 1984. But again, mainly studio albums and, the actual live releases, which at the time was just a box set of 5 LPs. But I remember getting this book, and the last section of the book was a concert history of him from like the mid 60s all the way up to like 1991. 1991. So, I got this book around that period of time, and I would read this and I would be like, wow, look at all this. Where does all this information come from? And, there would be places in the book where it would say, this show was radio broadcast, and this show was a soundboard recording, and this show is available on an excellent audience recording. I'm like, oh my God, I can get this stuff, and that was basically it. And, I suddenly realized that there was more music I could have, it's like, okay, well, I love the studio albums. I love the legal live releases. You mean I could have this other stuff as well? Yes, I could. If I'm willing to, pay a little extra money, sure, I can have it. And that's how that all got started. So to answer a question that you asked before, who is the artist that I have most in my collection? I would guesstimate that I have approximately 300 Bruce Springsteen concerts in my collection, just audio. Wow. Now we're talking about KISS. So let's talk about KISS. So in terms of KISS, in terms of audio, I have about 83, 85 live shows, audio, and about 15 shows on video. I mean, they've been good at putting out shows on video. I mean, the Kissology sets did a pretty good job at, satisfying, the fanatics, but not everything was there. Anaheim 76 wasn't there. Madison Square Garden 77 wasn't there. Largo 79 wasn't there. So there's still stuff that you have to get, in other methods. And now, of course, YouTube, kind of makes it a little easier for us. But I mean, if I can share a few things, this is where the show and tell begins. So, I mean, delving into my KISS collection. So if we keep the Montreal theme, so this is my boot CD of the Creatures 1983 show, which was put out by Godfather Records. It's a label that doesn't exist anymore, but they did some great work back in the day. So it's basically the full show, audience recording, and some extra tracks to fill in the space. Then we have here, this is the Lick It Up Montreal show. This is by Eat a Peach. So again, very good audience recording. When Godfather Records was still in existence, they put out some box sets. I have all 4 of them, but this is one of them. This is called the Classic Collection. This is basically about 4 or 5, well, more than that actually, complete concerts, most of which were originally on vinyl bootlegs back in the day. So, here you got Long Beach 74, which was originally a radio broadcast. Hempstead, New York, 1975, which was originally called, I believe, Second Kiss from Long Beach. but it was actually from Long Island. Anyways, Hammersmith Odeon, London, 1977. That was the Blitz London vinyl. LA Forum, 1977. First Night, which was called Sneak Attack, I believe. And the Budokan, Tokyo, April 1st. So I think commonly we have the April 2nd show on video.
Yeah.
This has the April 1st show.
The first night.
Yeah, excellent audience. And the one that I really enjoyed the most on this is Anaheim 76. Now you're saying, Michael, everyone has Anaheim 76. There's a pro shot video with soundboard quality audio. What I never realized about the original bootleg, which was called Anaheim, KISS Destroys Anaheim, that was made using an audience recording. So this actually contains the audience recording of that show, and it's an amazing listen. I mean, somebody in the crowd of 50,000 people with recording equipment recording that, I mean, let's be honest, historic show.
That's
and
right.
It's a wonderful thing to listen to. I mean, it's not perfect, it's a recorder with one microphone in the audience, so you're picking up the audience noise. You can hear the echo of Paul's voice because it's an outdoor show kind of thing. But in terms of an audience recording in a stadium in the 1970s, it's pretty damn good, and it's really really enjoyable to listen to.
It makes you feel you're there, right? So
it makes you feel like you're there, exactly.
Wow.
I mean, if you could ever find one of these somehow, and if you're a KISS fan, don't pass it up. Another box set here is this one called The Lost Tapes. So this was the second one that they put out, and this was all shows that were never originally released on vinyl bootleg. So you have Long Beach, 1975, Miami, 1976, early 1976. So the Alive tour, but getting near the end of the Alive tour. So they actually do shout it out loud at this show. Springfield, Massachusetts, 1978. So near the end of the Love Gun tour. A show that we all know well, and I know Pasquale has the vinyl of this. Montreal, 1979.
Yeah,
is on this. Gothenburg, Sweden, 1980. So a European 1980 tour with Eric Carr on drums. What else do we have? Providence, Rhode Island, 1975. A show they opened for Black Sabbath. New Year's Eve, 1982. Rockford, Illinois. Creatures of the Night tour. And the last one on here, the writing is so small, my God. South Bend, Indiana, 1974. And I'll read something here, if I can get this out without dropping it. Because I read this the other day, and I found it interesting. The booklet is very good, very detailed, talks about each one of the shows, also in the other box set that I showed. But I hope I can read this properly. Remember the days of tape trading. Nowadays, audio files are shared within days, or sometimes only a few hours after a show has been completed. But back in the first decade of history, we sent out cassettes all over the world, and sometimes it took months after a tour ended before we were able to hear the live recordings. Like there were legendary DJs in those days, there were legendary tapers like Dan Lipinski, Joe Maloney. Those two guys were from Boston. They taped a lot of Boston and Providence, Rhode Island area shows. Mike Millard, famous for a lot of his Los Angeles recordings, Led Zeppelin, Rolling Stones. But also many nameless tapers from Montreal. Hello.
There you go.
New York City, London, England, passed their legacy and shared their treasures with fans all around the world. Their legacy was a collection of high-quality master tapes, including many KISS shows that deserved to be bootleg back in the day that never were. So that was the goal of this second box that they put out. I have the two other box sets that they put out. The third one was a set of shows from the 80s. So basically Stanley Simmons, Kulick, and Eric Carr. So you get an animalized show. Actually, you get the very first show of the tour. So you get a very good audience recording of Bruce Kulick's very first show with KISS. There's an Asylum show. I can't remember where from, though. I'm sorry. St. Paul, 1988 or 87, Crazy Nights tour. San Diego, 1990, Hot in the Shade tour. Asbury Park, 1990, the rehearsal show that they did before the start of that tour. There's also a radio broadcast from Glasgow. And then there's a fourth box set as well, which is, for some reason, specifically shows from the Netherlands. So they got all these tapes of all these shows that the band did in the Netherlands going back from 1976 all the way up to 1988, and they put them all in one box set. So I was like, okay, well, that's a strange concept, but okay, the Netherlands, let's celebrate the Netherlands. You know,
of course.
So so that was it. So like I said, I mean, like I said, it's the music that's the most important thing. When you put on a CD and you're listening to one of these shows, you don't see the costumes, you don't see the lights, you don't see the explosions.
Exactly.
You hear certain things, but what you're left with is the music. So you have to like the music first.
Of course.
You know, so if that doesn't turn your crank, then then that's it. So
What else? So, Michael, Pasquale mentioned in the introduction that you're an author of 2 poetry books, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, why poetry?
Well, it's something I got into in high school. There was no specific reason for it. I remember one day my English teacher came into class and said, "Today we're going to learn poetry," and that's what we basically did. And part of the lessons or the homework was to try and write your own poetry. Mm-hmm. And I found that I enjoyed doing it pretty much. That's that's basically how it got started. My 2 books, which Pasquale mentioned, this one was published in January of 2018. And then the second one I had published in 2019. This one is actually I use Twitter. I don't know how well you see that, but I use Twitter to write the poems, and it comes with an image to go along with it. So I mean, just something I enjoyed doing, but never published for the longest time. And then one day I thought, well,
why not?
Why don't I try and do this?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah. There is a KISS reference here in one of the poems, one of the last poems, and it actually kind of goes back to my friend who I was telling you about from Newfoundland. So when we met in 2009 in Halifax, because KISS played the Halifax Rocks festival in Halifax in 2009, about a week or so after the Montreal show. So my friend and his wife, who I had known for years also, we said, hey, let's get together and let's see the Halifax show. So I met them at the airport. They had already been there for the day. And they came to pick me up at the airport. And we're standing there waiting for my luggage. And I said at one point, isn't this exciting? The 3 of us are together again. And I'll never forget, my friend said to me, actually, there's 4 of us here.
Ooh.
And I was like, and it took my brain a second to process that. And I realized, oh, they're telling me that they're expecting their first child, So that was wonderful. So when it came to writing this book, one of the last poem in this book is actually kind of an ode to their son. And the final bit of the poem is, remember, I met you in Halifax. We were 4 waiting for my luggage, and your first show was KISS. So even though he was in utero at the time, he saw KISS for the first time. So that was his first show, even if he didn't actually see it.
Great story. Love it. Yeah. That's really neat. Hey, Michael, any plans to write a book about KISS?
Oh, I don't think that's in me. I mean, if I were to, it would probably be around something, along the lines of, their live touring history and stuff. But that's been done, to be honest. I mean, if you remember, there was the book Alive Forever, I believe it was called, that came out in the early 2000s. I mean, I remember that book coming out and buying it, and for me that was like the holy grail. I was
Okay,
like, I was like, wow, look at all this information. It's fantastic. It tells me what shows were recorded, what shows were video recorded. I thought it was incredible.
If that didn't exist, that's what you would like to do, right? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. But of course nowadays, you know, you have a lot of this information available online.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the book is still great, you know, but it's very easy to find this information online as well. So
sure.
You know, so I you know, I don't know what I could possibly add, you know, kind of thing, aside from what I already have added, you know, in my you know, in my taping, you know, career, shall we say, if it can be called a career. So yeah.
So Michael, you mentioned how for you KISS is about the music. So I'm really curious to know some of your opinions about some recently released KISS music. We all know that the fans went crazy over the Destroyer box set, but there was a point of contention with the Live in Paris show. What are your feelings about that particular bootleg?
This is the Live in Paris show that I have. Okay. This was also put out by Godfather Records back in, I can't see the year, but it was put out many years ago. So it basically contains the entire Paris show plus one or two extra songs. I don't own the Destroyer box set specifically because what you have on the box set for the KISS Paris show is exactly the recording that you have here.
Okay.
Now, if it had been an upgraded recording, a soundboard recording, or had it been a multi-track recording, I would have been all over that. Okay. But you know, when I started, I listened to the samples on iTunes. I was like, I know this.
Sounds familiar.
Right.
This is the recording I have. You know, so you know what's going on here. I mean, and you know, the Destroyer box set. Okay, let's break it down. The studio album. I've had already 3 or 4 previous purchases of the Destroyer album already. So, you know, I already have that. The demos, the outtakes and stuff. Yeah, okay, they're interesting, but for me personally, I don't want 5 different versions of that. Just my opinion. You know, I mean, they're nice and all, but you know, I have other, you know, CDs and stuff where I have, you know, outtakes and demos and stuff, and it's interesting, you know. So, you know, the selling point for me would have been if the Paris show had been something more than what I already have.
Okay.
You know, but it wasn't, unfortunately. Look, I think for somebody who was just discovering KISS and maybe bought this, you know, and they get this release, you know, of this recording, it would be great for them. You know, it's like, oh my God, listen to this. And it doesn't sound like it's a professional recording. I wonder what else is out there, you know, and, you know, it might introduce them to,
exactly.
You know, but, you know, but for me, it was like, okay, I have this, you know. So for myself personally, I bought the, you know, the 2 CD set, you know, I'm good enough with that. And, you know, and that's fine, you know, so.
And what are your thoughts about the Tokyo 2001 Off the Soundboard?
I'm very happy with this release for many reasons. First of all, I'm glad that they finally started to do these kinds of releases.
Yeah.
There are other groups that have been doing this for a long time. You know, Fish started doing this back in 2002. Metallica started doing this 2 years after, I think, just before they started their Saint Anger tour. You know, Pearl Jam has been doing it for years. You know, so you know, I think it was about time, basically. That being said, this is a show that has existed since 2001. I mean, this show was video recorded and played over and shown over the internet, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had a video of this show, you know, for the past 20 years. Past 20 years, I know the show, you know. So on the one hand, I was like, okay, good, you know, now I can, you know, have it in audio format. Great. It's a soundboard. It's great, but it's, you know, I would prefer something that I don't have as opposed to something that I do have, or I would prefer an upgrade of something that I do have.
Okay.
You know, yeah. So, but great tour. I mean, underappreciated in my opinion. I mean, the same way, when Eric Carr came in 1980 and gave them a kick in the butt, and those European 1980 shows and the Australian 1980 shows are fantastic in my opinion. The same way, this tour, Japan and Australia, Eric Singer comes in and suddenly it's like, Ace Frehley's happy again. Yep. So good choice, but at the same time, would I have preferred something I don't have, or something upgraded? Yes, I would say that. Packaging wise, Pasquale, I remember the packaging for this release. I would have to say, you know what, it harkens back to the days of the original bootleg vinyls that came out. If you look at the original bootlegs like Great White Wonder by Bob Dylan, Liver Than You'll Ever Be by the Rolling Stones, plain white covers, the title stamped on it, and that was it.
That's it.
It was very simple. As the years went by, artwork became more intricate, and it became more required in the packaging, shall we say, in order to justify the price.
Right.
But as I don't have an issue with it. If I want to see pictures of Kiss and makeup, there's plenty of other places I can go and see pictures of Kiss and makeup. So yeah, so that's my feelings on that. But a great show.
Michael, if we continue on this same topic, I guess we're all happy with the releases of the Soundboard. So what's your opinion on the latest one, on Virginia Beach 2004 release?
This is a compilation CD that a friend of mine sent me after the Rock the Nation tour ended. Yeah. So it's basically a compilation of, let me count here, 27 songs, okay, played on the tour. So one good thing about the Rock the Nation tour is that, they varied the set list a little bit. So, they played different songs here and there. So what this 2 CD set did, and this was fan made, this is not official by any means, but it basically contains a performance of each of the songs that they performed on that tour. What you have here is 3 songs from Virginia Beach. What some people tend to forget, I think, is that tour was recorded, and made available to fans. Yeah, after
Instant Live. Yeah.
Instant Live or Insta Live or whatever it was called. So again, that show, that Virginia Beach 2004 show, has been around. It's available. I don't know if the recording used for Insta Live is the same as what's going to be put out on this release. Maybe it'll be different. I don't know. But again, it falls into the category of this is already out there kind of thing, So I look forward to having it. I look forward to listening to it. I'm sure it's a great show. And, come to think of it now, I mean, if you remember, the Rock the Nation DVD was recorded in Washington and Virginia Beach. So, we kind of, this show is out there kind of thing. Yeah. So it's, again, good. I will buy it. I'll be a good little Kiss fanatic and buy it. But yeah, if you're going to ask me, what would I like to see in the future?
Yeah.
Something, give me something. Well, first of all, give me something I don't have. Okay. Like I said, something that is probably rare in your catalog, let's say, or that's available. I mean, the Rock and Roll Over tour is not that well documented. The Dynasty tour, also would be a good one. Creatures of the Night, there's quite a number of good audience recordings from the Creatures of the Night tour, but nothing from a soundboard or a professional recording. If they have any of those, great, but also like, the Animalized tour, Asylum is not, documented in any fashion,
Yeah, even the Revenge era, that would be awesome too,
That would be good. I mean, if you take Animalized, I mean, what is the only official release we have from the Animalized tour? It's the Detroit show. which was originally filmed for MTV, and has been seen ad nauseum probably by every single Kiss fanatic. Give me something else, if it's in your library, if it's in your vault, why not? I mean, there is an audience out there for it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Michael, your love and passion for audio and video recording really runs deep, and you have an impressive collection. And I love how you were prepared for this podcast with all of the show and tell. I thought that was awesome. I think our listeners are going to appreciate that. Now, what advice would you give somebody who would be interested in getting into collecting audio and video?
The first piece of advice I would give is do your homework. And nowadays that is easy to do. Like I said, back 20, 30, 40 years ago, we had tape trader lists, that, people would mail to each other, and you would see lists of shows and, ratings of sound quality and performance quality. I mean, I still have my list, but I can't remember the last time I sent it to anybody. Nowadays with, YouTube and with eTree torrent sites, it's very easy to go online and look up a show and see, okay, this is the bootleg I'm seeing. Do I want to spend this much money on it? Or am I satisfied with just listening to what is available on YouTube for free? If you want to put the money into it, put some time into doing the homework and, listening to what is already out there. If you like what you hear, then go for it. I mean, in the past 5-6 years, one band that I've gotten into collecting is Led Zeppelin. I mean, I've always liked Led Zeppelin from like the early 80s, but I never got into collecting any of their live shows. But about 4 or 5 years ago, I said, why not? Let me get a few shows. There's websites I go to look up, set lists and different audio recordings. I have friends who have collections. I can ask them, hey, what do you think of this show? What do you think of that? So it's very easy for me to not make a mistake, because there's nothing more, you can get very upset or frustrated, if you buy something and, you're told, oh, it's an excellent audience recording. And then you listen to it and it's like, what's so excellent about this? I can barely hear, I can't hear the individual instruments. The vocals are buried. The audience is too loud, et cetera, et cetera. So, nowadays doing your homework is pretty easy. Another thing I would recommend is for each person to decide, what their comfort level is in terms of sound quality. Are you okay with, like usually radio broadcasts, you'll have good quality, soundboard, also good quality. Audience, it depends on the era, on the recording equipment. It depends on so many things. I could tell you stories. So, decide what it is that you want. You want to start with just radio broadcasts? Okay, then, find those shows. Do you want to concentrate on shows that are from your hometown? I mean, what I showed you earlier, you can see I want to get Kiss shows from Montreal, even if I haven't seen them, so I'm willing to forgo maybe sound quality that might not be top notch for having something that was played in my hometown. To hear Paul say, Montreal,
exactly.
That's it. But, I know some people who only collect radio broadcasts and soundboards. They don't touch audience recordings at all. And then there's people like me where it's like, okay, well, if the performance is good, if it's going to be okay on my ears, I'm good with it. I mean, I've recorded some shows where, it hasn't been a lot, but there's been like maybe 1 or 2 shows that I've recorded where I've listened to it afterwards and I'm like, oh my God, I can't listen to this. If I can't listen to it, then why am I going to torture somebody else? This is going, no, I'm going to erase this, and it it's a shame, but that does happen sometimes. Another thing to consider is, how much do you want to collect? You can get a lot of stuff and then it's like you have so much stuff and you never have the time to listen to it. So I would recommend start off slow, get one or two to start with, enjoy them, like really enjoy them, and then, kind of, move on. I mean, obviously, if you're going to buy, a box set like this, then you're going to get, quite a number of shows in one shot,
Just give it a listen, right? Just
then,
spend the time to listen.
Spend the time, give it a good listen, and, live with it, But like I said, in the early 80s, my list of artists that I like could fit on a piece of paper with very big font size. Nowadays, I I would have to write very small, to get them all onto one piece of paper,
Right.
So, the amount of time I have to give to anybody is limited too, So, there's a lot of things to take into consideration,
Of course.
But,
Of course.
all those things that I mentioned are, they are important, and they should be considered.
Well, they are good pieces of advice, for someone who's been into that, into this for so long. You know the process already, so you know the path to follow, right?
Let me show you a few things that I didn't show before. I'll go through this quickly. This is the very first show I ever recorded, Living Color, in Montreal in 1993. So this analog recording made at the Metropolis. So this is my original master tape. Another show here. This was the second show I ever recorded, actually. So this is Anthrax.
Oh, wow.
And there's a KISS connection here because they performed Strutter at this show. So, recorded on 2 separate tapes. Psycho Circus, Montreal, 1998. Color-coded, red and purple, and then the second cassette, silver and green. So I'm taking into account all the band's color motifs, and this side B here is extra tracks from Alive 2, or live tracks. Farewell Tour, or what was going to be the Farewell Tour, Montreal, June 2000. So this one is not on YouTube yet. Hopefully one day. And this is Ottawa 2000. This is the show I thought would be the last time I see KISS. But thankfully, that turned out to be different. So yeah, I mean, I remember this show very well. I was way in the back on the second level. There weren't very many people around me, so the recording is very good in the sense that the music is very upfront. Okay. But I remember Paul at the end saying, we'll keep you in our dreams, you keep us in ours. And, I have no problem admitting I choked up, because as far as I was concerned, that was it. It's like, okay, I've seen them 5 times.
That was the end.
And that's it. 9 years later, there I am at the Bell Center, and I'm, recording them again, but this time on mini disc, So this one is not on YouTube yet, but the Monster show is on this one, and this one is on YouTube if anyone wants. This is a great one. So although I prefer the 2009 show in terms of performance, and also, I mean, the crowd again was off the hook that night. It was just crazy. You could not have fit another person in there. It was packed. So yeah. So
Michael, I have a question for you before we wrap up.
Sure.
And I have to know, because it seems to me that you love your CDs. I have to know, what is better, CD or vinyl? Or what do you prefer, CD or vinyl? My answer. What's yours?
When it comes to collecting shows, I think CDs are more convenient. Sound-wise, I mean, they could sound equally as good on both. But when it comes to, like, take Led Zeppelin, for example. I was talking about them before, right? Your average Zeppelin show from 77 is 3 hours long. Now, do I want that show on 3 CDs, or do I want that show on 9 vinyl? And I'm constantly flipping every 20 or 25 minutes, so there's a convenience aspect there as well. From a convenience point of view, I prefer it on CD. Plus, I can play it in the car. So I haven't installed my my record player in my car yet. So
working on it.
But honestly, that is my preference. I mean, I have a collection of vinyl, for sure, but I don't have any bootleg stuff on vinyl. You know,
Understood.
if
Yeah.
it was something that was maybe like, let's say it was like a radio broadcast from the 70s and it was like only about 45, 50 minutes long and you could fit it on one piece of vinyl, you know, flip it over, you know, so there's only one flip involved. That would be okay, you know, but you get these bands that put out, you know, multi-vinyl sets of shows that are, you know, long, and, you know, it's like, oh, I got to get up and flip it again, you know, kind of thing. Maybe it's a sign of the times. I don't know. But, you know, I definitely like the fact that vinyl has made a comeback. And, you know, honestly, I think CDs are also making a comeback as well, you know, because, you know, we can do another podcast completely on, you know, do you prefer MP3s? Do you prefer, you know, vinyl and this and that? What's your opinion on sound quality and this and that?
Absolutely.
You know, yeah. But to answer your question, when it comes to my concerts, I prefer to have them, you know, on CDs. Yeah.
Okay. And besides, you know, your recordings that, you know, you explained during the show, is there anything else that you collect? Any items? Are you a big collector or something?
Like I said, I mean, my main focus is the music. That's where I want to focus. But I do have 2 items in my collection, KISS related, that are not music related, that I'm quite fond of having, and I'll show them to you. This one I got in 1997. This came out, so this is in between the reunion tour and Psycho Circus, and I've worn this many times proudly. KISS tie.
Okay.
Solo albums, yeah, I have that one
from the solo albums. So I keep this in as good a condition as I can. I wore this actually to the Psycho Circus show in Montreal. I was probably the only person there wearing a tie. But it just made sense to me. It's like, I got this tie. This is my first time seeing KISS. Since I got this tie, I got to wear this. So this is one thing that I have, and I treasure it. The other thing I have, which hangs in my house, is this poster. It's laminated, as I like to do. As you can see, you think it's a Gene poster. It is a Gene poster, but it's not a KISS poster. It's actually the band, the Donnas.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
And the story behind this is that, I mean, I was a fan of theirs. I mean, they were around for about 15 years, and they did a lot of good albums, great albums, actually. And I saw them many times in concert. And, you know, they're one of those bands that, you know, everyone has a band where they love them and you wish the entire rest of the world would know who they are. They were my band, as, you know, I still wish everyone knew who they were. But they threw a fan club concert in 2008 in the California desert, actually, in a small town near Joshua Tree. And I went out there for that concert, and I, you know, visited family at the same time. But I, you know, spent a few days out there in the California desert, saw the concert, and, you know, fantastic. And one of the things they did as part of that event was they had a silent auction to raise money. I believe it was for some kind of animal shelter or something that they were supporting. Now I went into it thinking, I don't think I'm going to buy anything. You know, again, music is my thing. You know, what piece of memorabilia am I going to have? You know, I mean, okay, t-shirts, yes. I mean, we all have our t-shirts. But I remember going, you know, walking in and seeing the things that were available for silent auction. And I saw that poster, and immediately in my head, I was like, I have to have it. I have to have that, and I'm going to have that. I'm going to win that. And I made a bid for it, and I won it. Because as far as I was concerned, you know, I mean, this kind of, you know, it married 2 things for me, because the reason I got into the Donnas was because they were on the Detroit Rock City movie soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, if we remember, you know, they were actually the only band to do a cover of a KISS song.
Yeah.
On that soundtrack. And they did it really well. And I heard that and I was like, who's this band? Who is this? The Donnas? Never heard of them. You know? And, you know, after that, I slowly got into them.
You got into them.
Mm-hmm. I was like, wow, this is great. And like I said, I started, you know, seeing them in concert. I actually have, you know, a few recordings that I made of them. that are still not online, but hopefully one day I'll get them online. So like when I saw that, I was like, I want that, because if it weren't for KISS, I probably never would have been introduced to their music, and I probably wouldn't be here in California, 40 degrees Celsius weather. It's perfect. It's perfectly dry, and I'm not sweating, and it's amazing. And I'm meeting all these wonderful people, and fantastic.
There you go.
So, Michael, in closing, I really want to thank you for coming on the show. We've been friends for a few years, again, since we met at one of my events, and I had an inkling of your passion for audio and video, but I never really, not that I didn't understand it, but I didn't see your perspective for your passion for it, and I think that really came across on this episode. The minutia and the detail that you have for the audio and video recordings that you do, and your love for the music and the different types of variations on the music. I really found it interesting, and I found that this episode, I got to know you just a little bit better. So again, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing this passion with us.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Thank you very much. And just a few things in closing. I mean, if anyone wants to go to my YouTube page, it's BFJS, so Bob, Fred, John, Sam Productions, BFJS Productions. If you type that in, you'll land on my you'll find my YouTube page, and it's pretty much all either audio or video recordings that I've done over the years.
Okay.
So and I certainly don't have everything up there. It's kind of like a legacy project that I'm doing to try to try and get everything on there. Because look, I mean, I've gotten comments and messages from people saying, thank you for putting this show up. I missed this show, and you were there, you recorded it, and now I can hear it. Thank you. One of the best messages I ever got was from somebody in Japan. I think I had put up my recording of Rush in Saratoga Springs in 2007. And this person from Japan sent me a message saying, I listened to everything by Rush that is on YouTube, that is live, because Rush only ever came once to Japan in 1984. And that's true. That was the only time they ever made it to Japan. And, I was too young. I couldn't go, but I love them. They're the greatest. But unfortunately, I never got to see them live. So anytime I find a new show online, I listen to it or I watch it, and that was it. And I was like, yeah, that's why I do it. One last thing I want to say, if you don't mind. I know a lot of KISS fans are fanatical about KISS. I am fanatical about KISS. I mean, like I said, I have close to 100 unofficial shows. I would encourage the fan base to seek out newer bands. The current tour is called the End of the Road for a reason. It's the last time they're going to tour. They're not going to be around much longer. There doesn't seem to be any studio material on the horizon. The archive releases are nice, but at some point, it's they're already a legacy band, and at some point they're really going to be a legacy band. So if you love the music, hard rock, heavy metal, whatever category you want to put it in, seek out the other bands that were influenced by KISS. The Donnas as one example. I learned about them, I got into them, and I love the fact that I did. And there's many other bands like that. I mean, the cup that I've been drinking from, this band, Thunder Mother.
Okay.
I mean, they were on the KISS cruise in 2018. They were one of the bands.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they sound like AC/DC, KISS, Van Halen, Def Leppard, Motorhead, Thin Lizzy. That's in our wheelhouse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the AC/DCs of the world, are they're there, and I hope to see them again.
Mm-hmm.
But I more want at this point in my life to see some of the newer bands that are coming along and carrying along the tradition. So at the end of the day, you ask yourself a question: am I a KISS fan or am I a hard rock music fan, or am I a metal fan?
Yeah.
I identify as a music fan.
Mhm.
So let's keep the music alive, and the way to keep the music alive is to promote and support the newer bands now more than ever.
The acts, exactly.
Yeah, now more than ever. So
absolutely.
Very well put.
just a little PSA. So.
Love it, because we have the tendency, of course, being a KISS podcast, to talk KISS all the time, but I guess, with 50 years in the business for the band, I'm sure that all of us, we not only listen to KISS, we listen to a lot of stuff out there. And we need to keep the, even though we're fans of the band, there's so much out there that it's worth exploring.
Yeah. So,
Michael, I would like, from my part, I'd like to compliment what Paz was saying before. It was so interesting, so informative. In my case, it opened up another perspective, as Paz was saying, the way you look at from different angles, at KISS and recordings and all of that, your passion, it doesn't go through merch, or it doesn't go through acquiring things. It's more on the music. It was interesting what you said about the artwork on the Off the Soundboard, for Tokyo. I never looked at that way. It's like, we're used to get a lot of stuff in there, material and blah, blah, blah. But that actually replicates the way that bootlegs were made, at the very beginning. So that's a really interesting, the value that it has. So I want to thank you so much. It's been great to meet you, and I hope we're going to have the chance to cross paths, in the same town. And it's been really, really great. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you, and thank you, Pasquale. Much appreciated.
So, to the KISS Army, thank you so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe on YouTube, or follow us on Spotify, Automatic, iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to make yourself heard. Leave us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. See you all soon, KISS Army.